Welcome to the 24th annual, wait, no, this is my first time doing this. Welcome to the 2024 Book Awards. And not just the 2024 Book Awards, but my 2024 Book Awards. I saw Haley Pham just do this idea and I thought it was so fun, such a cute idea. So shout out to Haley Pham for this video idea. Basically, we've got a bunch of categories, most of them from Haley's video, some of them that I added myself. We've got a lot of book nominees, but only so many books will be awarded the best blank. Okay, let me go get our first category's nominees. I also forgot to mention that I'm choosing between books that I read during 2024. Okay, let's get into our first category, the best cover. This doesn't necessarily mean this is my favorite book ever, just the prettiest. First up, we have Throne of Glass. I love the colors and I feel like the cover feels so epic with like the arch lines, and this is such an epic story of adventure. This summer will be different. Another one with stunning colors. My favorite part of this book is just how much it makes you feel immersed in summer. Like you could read this in winter and you'd be like, is it 98 degrees outside? Am I on the beach? A novel love story. It's just so freaking cute with the book and the two characters. When I look at this cover, I feel happy. The reappearance of Rachel Price, very simple in a way, but has all of the elements that are most important to the story. Also, the cover, when I first saw it, just really intrigued me, which is so perfect for a mystery thriller. And then our last nominee is Pride and Premeditation. I love how the cover feels like it's embroidered. It just appears that it has a texture to it, even though it doesn't. And there's a lot of little details in the cover, which I think is really cool. I'm gonna have to go with a novel love story, which is funny because this was not one of my favorite books this year. I thought it was very okay. Actually, I think I gave it 3 stars. But one thing that is really cool about this book is that our main character gets transported to the fictional town from her favorite romance series, which is just the coolest premise ever. And the best part of this book is how like giddy, cute, and happy the concept and setting of the book makes you feel, which I feel like the cover illustrates so well. And it's so satisfying to look at. I feel like especially because of the colors. Okay, next up is the most shocking plot twist. I mean, plot twists are one of my favorite things in books, so I'm very excited for this category. And our nominees are number 1, All In. This is the 3rd book in the Natural series. Honestly, the whole series has so many great plot twists, but especially this book. This is The Stolen Heir. And it's so funny, I actually accidentally spoiled the ending for myself, and I still loved going on the journey with the characters. There were still moments that surprised me, and I think if I hadn't spoiled the ending for myself, it would have been even more extra shocking. Next, we have Reckless. I don't think I have ever read a book that had such a crazy spoiler on the last page. Lauren Roberts knew what she was doing when she did that. I cannot wait for the next book. Just for the Summer really caught me off guard because you think, oh, it's just gonna be a really cute, typical romance, but the end has so much in it that I would have never seen coming at the beginning of the book. And then lastly, we have Phantasma. This book involves a very deadly, magical, gothic competition. I think is a pretty slam dunk in my opinion, and that's All In by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I love that this entire series, you have an individual mystery within each book, but there's also this big mystery plot we're kind of working towards throughout the whole series. So I think that fact that we have been waiting to get answers for 3 books just made it so much more satisfying when you start to get answers in this book, and the answers were insane. They were insane. Like, I think I was just sitting like this for so long after I read the twist, and like there's so many twists. It's just, I literally cannot recommend the Natural series enough. I'm so excited about this category. It is Best Banter, which I think is arguably the most important thing in a romance book, or it just gives me the biggest like giddy smile on my face when books have amazing banter. And our first nominee is Powerless. Kai, like the things he says had me swooning at so many points, and I love that Pei is not afraid to dish it back to him. I love that kind of like almost like fighting banter. Then we have Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. This is one of my favorite Elsie Silver books, which I didn't expect going into it. West just like oozes charm. He oozes charm, and their chemistry was insane physically and also through their dialogue and banter. Love Theoretically, okay, I just think Ali Hazelwood is such a brilliant writer, and particularly her dialogue can be so clever at times. Similarly, another author who is I think such a fantastic writer is Emily Henry. A Million Junes. The characters and their banter was amazing. And then our last nominee is My December Darling. The characters' text messages, specifically in this book, were so cute. And I love when characters have like texts or write letters or emails, just some kind of non-direct verbal communication. I feel like I worded that really weird, but I just think it's really cute. And for our winner, I think I'm gonna have to go with Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Kai was just so smooth with it, and he's just very much specifically my kind of book boyfriend, like brooding, enemies to lovers, and that comes through his banter so perfectly. I will read you one quote on the back, just kind of sums it up. Kai says, "If I am to be her enemy, I want it to be because she loathes herself for wanting me." And that was very much their rapport throughout the book. Okay, next up is a fun one, Most Immersive Setting. And our nominees, I will go get Is it cheating to nominate an entire series? I don't know, but I'm doing it. And that is the Throne of Glass series. What's so cool about this series is the map of this world is huge, and by the end of the series, you go all over the map. I don't know if there's any other series or book where we get to go to that many places. It truly feels like you have explored and know the entire world, which is so freaking cool. Phantasma was so atmospheric. It's so descriptive. It's so eerie, gothic. This competition is inspired by the different levels of hell, and I felt creeped out reading it. I kind of already mentioned these two, A Novel Love Story and The Summer Will Be Different. Literally makes you feel like you are in summer no matter what season you read it in, and A Novel Love Story, just the idea of being in your favorite book town. And then lastly is Wild is the Witch. This book just takes place in a forest, so you might be like, that's not that crazy immersive of a setting, but I think Rachel Griffin is such an atmospheric writer. All the descriptions made me feel like I was right there, crunching on the leaves, hearing the wind blow, which is my favorite thing about her writing. Hello, it's me, Editing Allie. I'm just popping in because when I was filming the video, I crowned a winner, but I want to change my answer. I had crowned Wild is the Witch by Rachel Griffin because I was like, she is, I think, the best author at writing really descriptive settings, but just because she's the best at writing settings doesn't mean the setting itself was like that unique. So I think I'm gonna crown Phantasma. I think out of any book I read this year, this one was just so cool to picture in my head. Like I said, each level in this competition is inspired by hell, and the author really goes full out on thinking about what that challenge for that level looks like, what the setting is like, what the outfits are like. There was so much attention to detail, which allowed me to picture everything in my head so perfectly, but it wasn't overly descriptive to where it was boring, which I'm obsessed with. Next, we have the saddest book. Say You Swear particularly hit me in the feels because it makes you feel so happy, yay romance, until it just hits you when you least expect it. All the right places, the characters and what they're going through and the way their experiences were written about felt so real to me, which made it just extra heartbreaking. Powerful. For such a short book, it made me feel a lot. Destination Unknown. This book takes place at the height of the AIDS epidemic, which obviously is devastating in and of itself, but what's so unique is that the author's note is where I first started crying in this book, which has never happened to me before. And for a winner, I'm gonna go with All the Bright Places. This is one where when I was reading it, I was almost like, why am I doing this to myself? This doesn't feel fun. I'm so sad and so hurt. But it's one now where I look back on it with so much appreciation. How the book was written about mental health and death and our relationships with loved ones and the silent struggles so many people can go through has like very much stuck with me from this book. Okay, moving on to a little bit more of a fun awards category, we have Most Unique Plot, and our nominees are Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This book is a pretty typical romance, but the entire book takes place in 24 hours, and I read the book in 24 hours. So it was really cool and unique reading experience to see my real life time line up with the book. Every single chapter says what time it is. Then we have Project Hail Mary. Right at the start, our main character wakes up alone in space with no idea of how he's gotten there, which is crazy. Then we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I'm actually in my mom bar right now. Our main character is cursed that no one will ever remember her. So pretty quickly into her meeting people, they forget about her. Another nominee for A Novel Love Story. Didn't think this book would get so many nominees considering it was one of my lesser favorite books of the year, but I've got to give props to the unique plot. The idea of going and getting magically transported to your favorite fictional book town is so freaking cool. And for a winner, I think I'm gonna say The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. The fact that she had this curse impacted so many areas of her life that I would have never guessed. She wasn't able to hold down a job or rent an apartment, have any meaningful relationships, order food at a restaurant. She really could not do anything because of the fact that she was cursed with people pretty much immediately forgetting who she was. And she also had immortality, so seeing how that curse also impacted her over hundreds of years was pretty crazy, and I feel like the author really just thought of everything. Okay, next up is Best Quotes. And I am not really a big annotator at all, but there have been a few books this year that have made me want to pull out my highlighter and start highlighting those quotes. So these are our nominees that made me, just for a second, want to get into annotating. Honestly, anything by Abby Jimenez, but particularly Just for the Summer. I think my favorite quote is on page 205. It says, "It's funny how when you find someone you like as much as I liked her, the destination is suddenly wherever they are. Even if there's someplace better, you wouldn't go if they couldn't come." Our next nominee is a repeat, All the Bright Places. I screenshotted my favorite quote. It says, "It's my experience that people are a lot more sympathetic if they can see you hurting. And for the millionth time in my life, I wish for measles or smallpox or some other easily understood disease just to make it easier on me and also on them." And then next we have A Million Junes. I love this quote on falling in love. It says, Maybe for some people, falling in love is an explosion. Fireworks against a black sky and tremors rumbling through the earth. One blazing moment. For me, it's been happening for months, as quietly as the seed sprouting. Love sneaked through me, spreading roots around my heart until, in the blink of an eye, the green of it broke the dirt. Hidden one moment, there the next. Okay, I have to read you one more quote for this one because it also talks a lot about grief in this book. It says, grief is an unfillable hole in your body. It should be weightless, but it's heavy. Should be cold, but it burns. Should over time close up, but instead it deepens. And for the winner, I think I'm gonna go with Just for the Summer. This one I would say was weakest in like one individual amazing quote, but I think there was just so many throughout this book that I really loved about love and dysfunctional families. I literally started taking notes on this book and writing down all the page numbers with my favorite quotes. Next category is best escapism. So I would define this category as being like, I was so immersed in this book, I forgot the real world existed. I could not put it down. I could not think about real life, but also just like was a good time. Pure enjoyment hobby, like wasn't anything crazy, sad or deep, just like so fun, so immersive. First up, we have Project Hail Mary. It takes place in space, and I think it just took me out of my own life and my own world in the most fun way. We have the entire Throne of Glass series, obviously 8 entire books of escapism. Butcher and Blackbird, our two main characters are serial killers, and I think the fact that this book was just so absurd but also didn't take itself too seriously made it so fun. And then we have Powerless and Reckless. These books I devoured so quickly. I think they have a great mix of being really kind of easy reads, like you can really fly through them, but still have a whole like complex political system and world that you can really sink your teeth into. And I think I'm gonna have to give the award to Project Hail Mary. I feel like it just ticked all the escapism boxes. Fun, space, setting, has a fantastic friendship that just makes it so fun to read about. It's fast paced. It puts you on the edge of your seat at moments, but it never is like too serious or intense. Now we have the weirdest book. Okay, I don't think I've read any like super crazy weird books before, so some of these are more quirky than weird. But our first one is Butcher and Blackbird. Like I said, this is a romance between two serial killers. Let's just say one of the trigger warnings is accidental cannibalism. Phantasma just fully leans into the gothic element. There's one scene in particular that I wish I could tell you guys about, but I'll leave it up to your imagination on how a very gothic, hellish atmosphere could get a little weird sometimes. And then our last nominee is Keeper of Enchanted Rooms. This one's not really weird, more just like quirky, but one of the main characters is a house, a literal house. The house is enchanted, it's alive, and it's causing chaos. And I have to crown Butcher and Blackbird. I mean, the simple fact that involves serial killers, but not just that, like the author has so much fun with this book and how absurd it is. For example, one of my friends just read this book and she just texted me that she doesn't think she can eat ice cream for a while after reading a certain scene. And I'm not gonna elaborate any more than that. If you've read the book, you'll know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, you'll have to read to find out how this book just might ruin ice cream for you, which is a sentence I never thought I would say. Okay, we have 2 categories left, and these categories were not in Haley's video. I added these myself because they're just some books that I was like, they don't fit the other categories and they deserve some nominees and or to win something. And our first one is most underrated / unknown, basically books that I think deserve more praise. The first one is A Million Junes. Emily Henry's books are so popular, but no one ever talks about this one. It's one of her first books that she ever wrote, and I think it's so good. Then we have Wild is the Witch. Rachel Griffin as a whole, I never hear anyone talk about her books, and I've read 2 of her books so far and adore both of them. And then lastly is The Predator, or just the Darkverse series as a whole. I've definitely heard some people talk about this series, but I feel like it deserves more hype and more like mass appeal, because I think this book is perfect for people who love dark romance or are not a big dark romance girl like me, but do like to dip their toe into dark romance a little bit. I like that it has a dark world and dark things happening, but it's really easy to root for the main characters. Oh, and it's a mafia romance. And for our winner, I have to crown A Million Junes. I just think it's so good. It's a classic Emily Henry book, so if you've liked any single one of her books, you would love this one. Amazing banter, amazing romance, but it's also different from her other books in that it's magical realism, it's young adult, and it deals a lot with grief as well. And I thought she did an amazing job writing a magical realism book. I think she should write way more magical realism. It was just so cool how she wove magic in with some honestly like heavier topics like grief. You wouldn't think those things would be connected, but in this book they are. And our last last category, an award that feels very personal to my heart, is the most badass female main character. I don't know why, I just really love the escapism that reading about just a super badass female main character brings me. And we once again have to nominate the Throne of Glass series. I mean, Selena is literally an assassin. Our next nominee is Inej from Six of Crows. She was so stealthy, it was crazy. Morana from the Darkverse. In the literal first scene, she is trying to kill Tristan, who ends up becoming the love interest. And our last nominee is Rune from Heartless Hunter. Not only does she have to hide the fact that she is a witch in a world that hunts down witches, but she also by night is a vigilante. She goes out there and tries to save other witches, and then she actually starts fake dating a witch hunter to try and get information from him. So she's just so brave. And for a winner, I think I'm gonna have to go with Selena from Throne of Glass. I mean, not only is she an assassin, but I really loved that she was not always a perfect character. She definitely had flaws, but she always was loyal to her friends and stood up for things that she believed in. She's also just got some really cool fight scenes in this series. It's me, Editing Alley again. There's a few more girls in the Throne of Glass series that I want to shout out. Why do I literally feel like they're real people and feel bad that I didn't mention the other characters besides Selena? Shout out to Manon, Elide, Irene, Lysandra, Nazran. I love that they are all very badass in different ways. Some are the fighter type, some are not fighters, but they all have strengths and they all are so pivotal and important to the plot. Really cool in this one to see all different kinds of really important female main characters, because I know I would not be the fighter type in a fantasy world. And that concludes this year's book awards. I would love to know who you guys would crown for some of these different book awards. Thank you for coming to my award ceremony. You guys were great audience members, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!